At my father's funeral, Jordan Liu indulged his white moonlight in setting up a betting game. A group of people laughed and joked, betting that I would take the chance to play the victim and that Jordan Liu wouldn't be able to shake me off. In that moment, I felt utterly desolate. Silently, I removed everything valuable from my body and called over a nearby waiter. "There's a chance to make some money. Interested?" Bet that Jordan Liu is tired of Helen and plans to swap her out for a new dog. The waiter won the bet. After we split the money, I cleanly vanished from Jordan Liu's life. At first, Jordan Liu didn't care. She's bankrupt. Her dad's dead, without support. Her dignity won't last long. But day after day passed. 3 months went by, and I was still nowhere to be found. That's when Jordan Liu started to panic. He found me at a banquet. First, he instructed others to humiliate me. Then he stepped in to coax me himself. "Helen, just bow your head a little, I'll still keep you under my wing." Alone and cornered, I saw the waiter, now seated at the place of honor, slowly raise his glass to me. "Thanks to you, I really did strike it rich. Now, here's your chance to bully someone with power on your side. Want to take it?" Chapter 01. At the memorial banquet after the funeral, Jordan Liu's stepsister, also his pretentious coquette, showed up uninvited. She wore a fiery red spaghetti-strap dress, strutting over to Jordan Liu's table with a flamboyant smile and started a betting game. Come on, it's been a while, let's place some bets. That annoying Helen's dad just died. She'll definitely play the sympathy card. Let's bet whether my dear brother can finally shake her off." The mood was rowdy, and many eagerly joined in the wager. I was Helen Lin. At that moment, I had just finished settling the banquet fees and returned to retrieve my coat. The absurdity unfolding before me made me tremble uncontrollably. Leaning behind a column, I instinctively searched for Jordan Liu. But the man who had grown up with me, my childhood friend, was now watching his stepsister with interest, indulging her in this vile and outrageous farce. He said, "She's just a mangy dog. Whether I can shake her off depends on what chips you're willing to throw in." Patricia blushed under his direct gaze. Still, she feigned innocence and casually wagered her red dress. "This dress is brand new today. I'll throw it in for you. Cheapskate. As if you could wear it." Someone teased. Flirty jeers and laughter grew more and more unscrupulous. "Aw, our dear Master Liu might not wear it, but he sure can take it off. Ha 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 ha." Lewd laughter echoed through the memorial hall. Jordan Liu's assistant whispered a reminder. "Mr. Liu, don't go too far. If Helen finds out, this will be hard to clean up." Jordan Liu frowned in annoyance, as if he didn't even recognize me anymore. "She's bankrupt and fatherless. Even if she finds out, she'll pretend she didn't." I think that was the moment I buried all my feelings for Jordan Liu. In a single instant, I knew exactly what to do. Suppressing the storm in my chest, I silently removed everything of value from my body. Then I stopped the nearby waiter in a baseball cap. "I've got a chance for you to get rich. Interested? Go to that table and bet that Helen's worn out her welcome and it's time to replace her with another dog." Chapter 02. Worried the waiter might get nervous, I explained the betting rules to him. To my surprise, the random waiter I grabbed turned out to be unbelievably composed. Under the gaze of the arrogant elites, he slowly approached the table. He placed his bet on the table with a relaxed, deliberate motion. "Anyone can bet?" he asked. Patricia nodded. Kind reminder. Though, the girl in question's like a mangy dog, hard to shake off. "You sure you want to bet?" The waiter didn't respond. Eyes lowered, he casually removed his wristwatch, added it to mine, and pushed both forward. Then, word by word, he said, "I bet Helen's worn out, and it's time to switch dogs." The room fell into eerie silence. Jordan Liu's tapping fingers froze. He slowly looked up. Some were ready to throw punches, but the waiter acted like he couldn't feel the growing tension. He glanced at Jordan Liu, clearly impatient. "What? You that dog?" Jordan Liu's face twisted in fury, brows knitting tightly. But before he could lash out, something clicked, and he suddenly turned around. Our eyes met. A long silence. Neither of us spoke. Memories played like long takes in an old film. The two of us walking home from school, butterflies chasing us by the back seat of a bike, tiptoes beneath a willow tree, the light, cherished touch of lips. One by one they flashed by, then drifted further and further away. Jordan Lu's throat moved, but he said nothing. I lowered my gaze, stepped onto the stage, gave a formal thank you. Then, in front of everyone present, I dissolved the engagement with Jordan Lu. Chapter 03. The waiter won the whole pot. Not a single person had bet on me leaving Jordan Lu. Jordan Lu himself never expected that one day I'd be the one to walk away. I said I was done playing, and it was time to switch dogs. He looked at me, angry and panicked, and asked in a low voice what kind of madness I was pulling. So I showed him. Before everyone, I pulled out my phone and hit play. A moment later, Patricia's shrill voice echoed loudly from the speakers. Cheapskate. This dress is brand new. I'll throw it in for you. As if you could wear it. Aw. Our Lu can't wear it, but he can take it off. Ha 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 ha. People gathered around to watch. The sleazy laughter echoed through the somber hall. Absurd and pitiful. I straightened my father's portrait. Standing tall on the stage, I looked down coldly at Patricia. Freeloader who shows up to a funeral feast without offering condolence money, I've won the rights to your dress. Confirmed by this recording. According to unspoken rules in their circle, a bet must be settled at the table. Violators are completely ostracized. So, I said slowly, are you taking it off yourself? Or do I do it for you? Many in the crowd began live streaming. Patricia's face turned pale. Tears gushed out instantly. She sobbed as she tried to hide behind Jordan Lu. I stared her down. Fine if you don't want to take it off. Just get everyone who laughed along to kneel before my father's portrait and apologize, one by one. The scene turned unbearably ugly. Patricia cried prettily like a drenched flower, begging the rich second-gens, but prideful as they were, why would they kneel? Most would rather watch Patricia strip for laughs. The surrounding mockery pushed her to the brink. Jordan Lu barked at her to stop crying and pulled her protectively into his arms. He frowned hard and shouted at me, Helen Lin, are you serious? I already said we'd talk about the engagement later. It was just a game, why are you losing it like this? I stood there stubbornly, unmoved. In the portrait, my father looked down at Jordan Lu with the same kind gaze he'd always had when helping him rise. The standoff dragged on. Only when Jordan Lu found himself powerless, before me and the entire circle, did the elders finally step in to mediate. Chapter 04. In the end, Jordan Lu offered a hefty check to cover the cost of Patricia's dress. The others who had jeered bowed in apology, but no one knelt. I didn't manage to strip off that glaring red dress, but this was the most dignified conclusion I could get. When I took the check from Jordan Lu, Patricia glared at me with bitter hatred. Don't be mad, big brother. Let's just say we paid a beggar to leave. This might be the last time she sees this much money in her life. Jordan Lu chuckled as he looked at the pile of jewelry, his tone mocking. Helen, all this just for a pile of second-hand junk? Do you even realize how many people you made me offend with your pathetic greed? I lowered my head, silently counting the jewels I had won. Patricia was right. This might be the most money I'd be able to get for now, just enough to cover my grandmother's surgery. As the second-gens walked past me, they muttered curses under their breath and left one by one. Jordan Lu looked utterly disappointed as he stormed out with them. The hall was soon empty, a mess left behind. I looked up, smiled faintly, and held up the jewels to the waiter who had stayed by my side the whole time. What do you think? Impressive, right? The brim of his cap was pulled low, hiding his expression. He tugged at the corner of his lips and replied, Impressive. You talk a good game. How about a 70-30 split? He didn't respond, just handed me a few tissues, gesturing for me to wipe my face. Only then did I realize I had been crying. Chapter 05. I forced a strong, careless smile and wiped my face clumsily. Then I picked a few valuable, easy-to-sell pieces of jewelry and stuffed them into his hands. Take them. I'm generous like that. I didn't want him to think I was pitiful, but my tough act didn't last even a day. That very night, he caught me bawling my eyes out in the hospital stairwell. My grandma had passed. The surgery money I'd fought so hard to win, no longer needed. Once I finished arranging the cremation, filed the paperwork, and settled everything, I collapsed, curled up in the stairwell corner. I sobbed like a stray dog no one wanted. No, I was a stray dog no one wanted. My family was gone, our home seized, When my snot dribbled past my lips, he was already standing a few steps above me, a cigarette in his mouth. He took off his cap, revealing a striking but unapproachable face. A long, faint pink scar traced the corner of one sharp eye. My vulnerability was laid bare before him. The cigarette's ember flickered in the dark. I tried to stop crying, hiccuping with every breath. By the time I managed to wipe the last bit of snot away, he stubbed out his cigarette. "Those jewels you gave me, I couldn't find a place to sell them. Can you help me?" I opened my mouth in surprise, speechless for a while. At last, I forced a lighter tone. "Sure, no problem." I think I even managed to smile. But right after saying that, the world went dark. I blacked out. Chapter 06. Turns out I had low blood sugar and collapsed down the stairs. Thinking back, I hadn't eaten in 3 days. When I woke up again, I was in an unfamiliar room. Simple, but clean. The pillow carried the faint scent of soapberries. For a moment, I felt a pang of regret. Why did I wake up? Wouldn't it be nice to have followed Dad and Grandma? But the sunlight streamed softly onto the narrow bed. It looked just like the home of my childhood. I sat up, pulled the tape from my hand. Then I heard the clanging of tools from downstairs. Climbing to the window, I saw I was in a 2-story building. Below was an auto repair shop. The waiter, wearing coveralls, arms muscular and firm, was removing the door of an SUV. Beads of sweat shimmered in the sunlight, sliding into his shirt. Sensing my gaze, he looked up, still holding the door. The sunlight hit just right. I tugged at the corners of my mouth and teased, "Working this hard, how about I just keep you?" He didn't smile, paused his movements, seriously considering it, then asked earnestly, "I eat a lot. Can you afford it?" Chapter 07. I let out a surprised laugh. Why so serious? But he kept his pose downstairs, waiting for an answer. The scent of food drifted from the kitchen. My stomach growled loudly. Unfamiliar wildflowers at the window swayed and bloomed in the breeze. For a moment, I realized this world wasn't all bad. I smiled sheepishly. "I've only got that one day's winnings left. You better not eat too much." Chapter 08. That day, I blocked all of Jordan Liu's contacts. Tried to step into a new life. Familiar voices kept calling to talk me down. They said I should swallow my pride. Beg Jordan Liu, he wouldn't leave me in ruin after all those years together. I silently blocked them all. I began helping Jonathan run his garage. He told me he was never a waiter that day. He was just at the hotel on business when I happened to call him over. He was a mechanic. After explaining, he looked serious again and asked, "Even dirty ones, you'd still keep them?" "I'll clean up right after work." Whenever he said things like that, I'd think of the big yellow dog in my grandma's yard. Didn't bark much, fierce, but always rubbed its head against my leg. Soft and loyal, I'd unconsciously raise my hand and ruffle his hair. The empty days slowly grew peaceful and long. I sold all the jewelry, used the money to renovate Jonathan's small 2-story home. We got a mutt for the yard, hired 2 more mechanics. While Jonathan worked, I'd sit nearby zoning out, or just stare at him. His bronze skin, lean and muscular build, tightening with every movement. My heart would thump vividly during those moments. Sometimes he'd catch me staring, ears turning red. He'd toss a pair of sunglasses onto my face. Had enough? I shook my head, traced a finger along his arm. They're like little blades of grass pushing through the dirt. Just looking at them makes me feel like I can breathe again. Jonathan stilled. A flicker of emotion, maybe pity, passed through his eyes. After that, he started letting me wipe his sweat. His arms, his temples, his waist, even his abs. At night, he'd quietly check if I had insomnia. In the morning, he'd tell me the sun was lovely, and life was interesting. I knew he was afraid I'd try to end my life, so I teased him. "Interesting? Where? I don't see it." He paused, face darkening, tossed his tools aside, cut work early, dragged me into the room and locked the door. Then, walking toward me, pulling off his gloves and jacket, he cornered me at the edge of the bed. No place left to run. His eyes locked onto mine, deep and steady, and asked bluntly, "Do you want to sleep with me?" Chapter 09. The soft pink of sunset cast a hazy, ambiguous glow across the room. Jonathan's silhouette was haloed by a gentle blur, like a figure stepping out of an oil painting, bare, striking. I couldn't help myself. I asked, "Will you take responsibility?" Jonathan didn't flinch. He lifted his hand and pulled off his tank top. "Try me first," he said with a cocky grin. Then, he guided my hand to his firm chest, and slowly downward, over the sculpted muscles of his abdomen, until it came to rest on the cold metal clasp of his belt. My heartbeat roared in my ears. The thick scent of his pheromones overwhelmed my senses, dangerous, intoxicating. My hands trembled. Click. The clasp came undone. Jonathan kissed fiercely. His rough hands gripped my waist. Tentative yet possessive. Aggressive yet restrained. Like conquering territory. Pushing forward inch by inch. Every tremble, every wave of pleasure jolted me awake to the raw, vibrant force of life. That night, Jonathan used everything he had, just to show me that life could be interesting again. Chapter 10. The next morning, when sunlight stretched across Jonathan's bare back, his lazy voice drifted from the pillow. "Was it good?" I quickly looked away, embarrassed, my throat too hoarse to answer. "Not good?" His face darkened instantly. As it turns out, never underestimate a man's competitive pride. From that day on, I never had trouble sleeping again. Chapter 11. Those were shameless, blissfully undignified days. In the blink of an eye, over 40 days had passed. I was slowly forgetting the pain Jordan Liu had brought me. But Jordan Liu, on the other hand, had started looking for me. I didn't know that the day the memorial banquet ended, Jordan Liu had already grown restless. Patricia had dragged him to a hotel. She cried about the fright she suffered at the banquet, then flung herself into his arms, playfully coy. "This dress," she whispered, "it's yours now." But Jordan Liu wasn't in the mood. His mind was filled with Helen Lin's stubborn face. That girl, usually so spoiled and arrogant, had humiliated herself over a bunch of second-hand jewelry. And yet she treated it like treasure. He didn't know what to call this sour, prickling feeling in his chest. He decided it was anger. Seeing him unmoved, Patricia pouted, trying to draw attention as she undressed. "Return the dress if you want, brother. But it's still not worth the amount on your check." What should I do? Cheap lines, and yet the way she courted favor was seasoned, skilled. Jordan Liu suddenly felt irritated. He leaned back, legs sprawled, voice indifferent. "Whatever, do what you want." Before he could even push her away, Patricia climbed on top herself. After they were done, Jordan Liu lay back and tried to rationalize it all. He told Helen to settle the bill and go home that night. She was the one who insisted on coming back and causing trouble. Sure, maybe his words were cruel, but she didn't have to blow everything up like that. She needed to be taught a lesson, realize her place. That temper of hers couldn't be thrown around whenever she wanted anymore. That night, he didn't sleep well. He dreamt, oddly, of Helen back in school. She'd always been delicate and dramatic, chasing him like it was her life's mission. Then one day, she vanished during her period. She'd said, "Nothing trumps my period. Even the emperor can't order me around." He hadn't seen his shadow for 3 days. Curious, he went to her class and found her curled up in the back row, surrounded by blankets, heating pads, and hand warmers. When she spotted him, the brat dropped all pretense and bossily ordered him to pass her water. "I'm too lazy to bend over," she said. He'd never met anyone like her. So shameless, so quick to switch gears. He handed over the cup and found it filled with a special herbal tonic, delivered twice daily by the Lin family's chauffeur. If it wasn't freshly brewed, she wouldn't touch it. So he teased her, "What if your family runs out of money someday?" She joked back without missing a beat, "You can keep me. I don't want you." He'd kept up his aloof persona. She laughed lazily. "Then I'll go wander the streets, scam you once, then disappear." Jordan Liu jolted awake, frantically searched for his phone. No messages from Helen Lin. The moment he realized how anxious he felt, he smashed the phone. What was there to act noble about anymore? She wouldn't even let him touch her before. This time, he'd make her come crawling. He started making high-profile appearances with Patricia, Even took her to the hospital where Grandma Lynn had been treated, hoping to run into Helen. But he didn't. Instead, he heard that Grandma Lynn had passed away. He froze, snapped out of it, and immediately called Helen Lynn, only to find he'd been blocked. Chapter 12. Jonathan's garage sat beside a quiet highway at the foot of the mountain, far from the noise of the world. But we didn't find it dull at all. We watched the sunrise in the mornings, made love at dusk. Once I was in better shape, Jonathan began taking me into the mountains. We picked mushrooms, caught wild pheasants, splashed barefoot in the streams, and I watched him fish. For once, Jonathan smiled, really smiled. His white teeth and the curve of his lips softened the sharp lines at the corners of his eyes. "Why don't you smile more often?" I asked. Jonathan paused, stepping through the water until he stood in front of me. "Are you going to stay here for good?" he asked. I smiled and helped roll up his pant leg. "I've got nowhere else to go." I didn't notice the tension in his brows. I never realized what kind of feelings he harbored for me. That afternoon, while he was grilling fish outside the tent, I climbed alone to a nearby cliff, with my arms stretched wide. I welcomed the wind, until a sudden force yanked me back, slamming me against a massive rock behind me. Jonathan held me tightly, his eyes bloodshot. He bit my shoulder in a frustrated growl, voice low and hoarse with rage and grievance. "You fucking seduced me, tried me out, and now you won't take responsibility?" I froze for a moment before realizing he thought I was trying to jump. A helpless laugh bubbled out, and my heart ached with sudden warmth. I cupped his face with both hands. "That cliff's barely a slope. If I wanted to die, would I really pick that?" Jonathan blinked, stunned for a while. It was the first time I'd ever seen him look embarrassed. I couldn't help but laugh. "You part dog? That bite really hurt." Jonathan's expression darkened again. He buried his face in my chest, and, through my shirt, bit me again. His muffled voice murmured, "You're the one who said you were gonna replace your dog." His bite sent shivers through me, the pain making my voice break. Jonathan didn't stop. His hands lit fires everywhere as he vented his emotions. My dress was pushed up to my waist, and for the first time, Jonathan didn't hold back. In the wild mountain woods, the chirping of insects and birds was the only witness to my shy, stammered pleas for mercy. That day I realized none of his usual finesse matched the raw, unrestrained power of his need. My voice was shaky. "Jonathan, this rock's too hard." He didn't stop. "That's what you get for tempting me." It wasn't just the rock that was hard. Everything was, except the soft, quiet corner in my heart that had finally been touched. That day, I whispered sweetly to Jonathan, I promised I'd never leave. Jonathan believed me, but I didn't yet know that I'd have to break that promise soon. Chapter 13. The day Jordan Liu learned of Grandma Lynn's passing, he lingered at the hospital for hours. He asked the staff about the details of that day. The more he heard, the darker his face became, and when someone mentioned that Helen had been carried away by a man with a scar at the corner of his eye, his expression turned stormy. Patricia muttered, "Her whole family's dead and she's still out seducing men." That was the moment Jordan Liu exploded. He slammed his fist into the wall behind Patricia, making her shut up and get out. Patricia stood frozen in disbelief. Even Jordan Liu couldn't believe himself. After all, she was the stepsister he once claimed he couldn't touch because of ethics. The same naive girl he had seduced and played with just to get back at his stepmother. He used to think his guilt toward her was enough to let her do anything she wanted. But this time, he drove her away with harsh words. Some complex, unnameable emotion twisted in his chest. He knew the man with the scar must be the same one who placed that infamous bet on Helen that night. And he was certain Helen had done it all to spite him. But the man's eyes, they were like a wild dog's. That foolish woman should have known better than to be so reckless. Jordan Liu began searching everywhere. He was determined to make her pay. Other second-guess mocked him. "Didn't you say she was just a mangy dog, Liu? Why go through all this trouble for a dog?" Jordan Liu's lips tightened into a straight line. A trained dog listens when it's called. More people joined in, eager for the drama. The well-connected second-guess even revived the brand Helen's father had once built. They brought in professional executives and launched their plan. Chapter 14. The moment I saw that news, I knew it was a trap. They dug the pit, just waiting for me to fall in. But what they didn't know was that I had already planned to step back into my father's former enterprise and investigate the cause of the bankruptcy. I'd been searching for an opportunity, and they delivered it straight to my door. That executive position? I was going to win it, no matter what. When Jonathan found out I was leaving, he sat in the courtyard smoking the whole night. When he came back in, he buried his head in the crook of my neck. His voice was muffled. "You really have to go?" I stayed silent. "They'll bully you," he said. I stroked his head gently in reassurance. "Don't worry, I'm tough. Once I get that position, I'll come back and protect you." Jonathan didn't say another word, but from the next day on, he stopped spending his days quietly fixing cars. He left early, came back late, exhausted every night. One day, I saw a nasty scrape on his temple. When I asked, he said nothing. Sometimes I'd wake in the night to find him sitting alone in the yard, drinking in silence. I had no idea what kind of torment he was going through. All I could do was keep telling him I would come back. Chapter 15. The day of the executive selection came quickly. I got up early to prepare, but Jonathan was nowhere to be seen. His motorcycle lay abandoned in the yard, and he'd left only 2 words in a message. "Don't be afraid." I figured maybe he was still mad at me. Swallowing my disappointment, I headed out alone. The second-gens I'd once forced to bow their heads had gone all out for this event. They changed the format of the selection. The evaluation was moved to a banquet hall, and candidates had to appear in full formal attire. The excuse? To assess the candidates' social skills. But the venue was the very same hall where my father's memorial banquet had been held. Candidates wore exaggerated number tags on their clothing, a blatant ambush. Still, I gritted my teeth and walked into it anyway, because no matter their intentions, once they saw my business proposal, they'd realize my father's brand was still profitable, and the business world would do what it always does, choose profit. Chapter 16. Before the banquet, I had conducted a thorough investigation into the revived brand. In just a short time, there had been multiple changes in ownership. On the very eve of the competition, the controlling shares were transferred again without any public disclosure. When I arrived at the banquet hall, the person meant to preside had yet to appear. My nerves were taut, and then, I saw him, Jordan Liu, sitting near the head of the table, suggesting a high level of ownership. From across the room, he watched me silently, fingers tracing the rim of his glass, expression unreadable. The second-gens began to make their entrance. "Well, if it isn't the Lin family's little princess, you've got guts showing up." He waved some others over. "Brothers, come on. For old time's sake, how about we start by interviewing Miss Lin?" They all jeered in agreement. The leader of the group eyed the number tag at my waist. "Contestant number 2. First challenge, bow to the clients in a low-cut gown and apologize. Let's see if a manager knows when to bend. Now then, pretend we're your clients. Pull down that neckline and start bowing." I kept my eyes fixed on the screen, telling myself to hold on, the presentation video would start soon. But I had overestimated their decency. In front of the whole crowd, one of them actually reached out to push my head down. "What's this? Can't bow? Then let me help you." I dodged, only to bump the man next to me, causing him to dramatically spill an entire glass of wine onto my chest. "Oh no. How clumsy of you." The voice was Patricia's. She stood smugly with the group of second-gens, all of them sneering with malicious delight. Twisted, ugly faces, demons in expensive suits. That's when Jordan Liu approached. He pushed through the crowd and stood before me, looking down at my soaked, disheveled state, but said nothing. I knew he was waiting for me to beg, but I would never give him that satisfaction. The screen behind us had already begun playing my proposal video. Jordan Liu saw I wasn't reacting and gave a sharp laugh. "What? You're really going to keep that pride up even now?" At the main table, a few people had started watching the video, their attention gradually drawn in. Jordan Liu's brow furrowed. He lowered his voice. "Helen, think carefully. Do you want to humble yourself in front of me, or in front of all these people? All this time, haven't you suffered enough?" Whispers rippled among those watching the video. They began nodding, visibly impressed. I met Jordan Liu's gaze and lifted an eyebrow mockingly. A wave of teasing erupted around us. Didn't Liu say she was just a trained dog? Why is she biting the master now? Huh? Jordan Liu's composure finally cracked. He stepped closer, visibly furious. Teeth gritted. Helen Lin, don't tell me you're counting on that waiter to come save you? That street thug you paid a couple $100? Even if he shows up today, what can he do? All he'll do is be humiliated beside you. I never thought the once gentle Jordan Liu would one day reveal such a base, cruel face, proving that old saying true. When you're successful, the world smiles at you. When you fall, it bares its fangs. I turned my face away in disgust, regretting every year I'd wasted on him. Jordan Liu, burning with shame and anger, grabbed me and forced me to meet his eyes. But Helen, he said, voice low and sharp, you've got no one left. No matter how bad it gets, no one's coming to stand by you. I sneered inwardly. Let me be the one to suffer alone. Jonathan, someone as wild as him, should never have to bow his head. But just as Jordan Liu's voice fell, the doors of the banquet hall opened wide from both sides. A group of impeccably dressed individuals strode in, parting neatly, and in the center of them walked a familiar figure. Chiseled brows, that faint pink scar by his eye, and a powerful build outlined beneath his suit. Jonathan. He was here, and he was walking toward me without hesitation. Chapter 17. Across the bustling crowd, Jonathan and I locked eyes. Sorry I'm late, he said. In that moment, tears welled uncontrollably in my eyes. When the one you love isn't there, disgrace becomes a kind of armor. It makes you stronger. But under the gaze of someone who truly cherishes you, all you want to do is scrub the wine from your skin and hide all traces of your humiliation. That reflex of mine enraged Jordan Liu. He suddenly seized my wrist. Well, what a touching tragedy we've got here. His eyes were bloodshot, burning with obsession. Helen, enough with the theatrics. You don't know how to appreciate a second chance. But before he could finish, a fist slammed into his jaw. Jonathan struck with blinding speed. One punch, and then his suit jacket was off in a flash. As Jordan Liu staggered upright, Jonathan had already loosened his tie, undone his cuffs. His fists flew again. This time, Jordan Liu crashed straight into the banquet table, completely overpowered. Dishes shattered. Food spilled across the floor. Jordan Liu lay in humiliating disarray. For a man born at the top, this was unthinkable. But strangely, none of his lackeys dared to step in, because everyone had seen who was standing behind Jonathan, the chief assistant to the president of Kim Corporation. In the business world, Kim Corp stood like a pyramid's peak. Even a single assistant from the company was someone to curry favor with. And that very assistant now stood respectfully behind Jonathan, picking up his jacket, collecting his tie, addressing him as President Kim. Jonathan turned to me with a gentle smile. Sorry I'm late. Those watching my proposal video stood up one by one. It's not late at all. You're just in time. Jordan Liu, trembling, scrambled to his feet and shouted hysterically. Bullshit. Helen Lin, you think dressing him up like some fancy CEO means he's actually made it? You even know what happens to someone impersonating the Kim heir? I turned, anxious, but Jonathan smiled back at me, white teeth gleaming. Helen, thanks for the blessing. I really did strike it rich. And now, I've got a chance to throw my weight around for once. You want it? Same place, same people. Fate felt like a circle, drawing us right back to the beginning. Chapter 18. Jonathan was the long-estranged eldest son of the Kim family. Only recently had he lowered his head to his father and agreed to take on family business. My father's brand had been his first acquisition after stepping in. And just this morning, Jonathan finalized a complete transfer of ownership, gaining full control over the company. Jordan Liu kept trying to lunge at him, but each time Jonathan knocked him back down. No one dared intervene, so Jordan Liu called the police. Laughing madly, he yelled, "Everyone's lost their damn minds. Someone's out here impersonating the Kim heir, fooling the whole room. Send the cops." But Jonathan ignored him completely. He turned to me, gently draped his suit jacket over my wine-soaked dress. The pain in his eyes was well hidden behind his smile. "I knew you were good. Tons of people backed your proposal. Even without me, they would have made the right call. I didn't tell you earlier, because I wanted to be your hero just this once. Will you be mad at me?" That smile, so cautious, so different from the fury behind his punches. I tightened the coat around me, thinking back to his recent behavior. How could I not understand now? There had long been rumors about the Kim heir, how he abandoned his inheritance after his mother's death, furious at his father's infidelity. How, when persuasion failed, Kim Sr. had simply brought his mistress and illegitimate son home to inherit instead. Years passed, and the illegitimate son thrived within the Kim empire. Jonathan? As far as the world knew, he was out for good. I remembered those nights he sat alone, drinking in silence, the scrape on his temple, the barely visible tremble of the hand holding his cigarette. What did he have to endure to bow to his father? Did his father give him that scar? That proud, stubborn man, what did he have to swallow to speak softly to the man who betrayed his mother? I knew. He'd kept it from me because he wasn't sure. He only took full control of the company the night before, and rushed here, just in time, to stop me from being humiliated. Even then, he still thought to preserve my dignity. I knew very well, those people might have respected my proposal, but they wouldn't have chosen me without hesitation. Jonathan's arrival had sealed their decision. I couldn't help but throw my arms around him, burying my face in his chest. Muffled, I said, "Why would I be mad? Mad that you're rich now? If your wealth lets me bully a few scumbags, what's not to love?" Jonathan's tense frame relaxed. He returned the embrace, holding me tightly, finally at ease. Jordan Liu, who had just ended his call, finally snapped. He leapt up and grabbed my hand. "Enough. Helen, stop putting on a show to spite me. It was just a damn bet." Jonathan immediately stepped between us, eyes warning, shielding me. Jordan Liu's gaze turned deranged. "Helen, you'd rather bow to a stranger than to me. What am I to you? It was just a bet. But you left behind that half-eaten box of chocolates in my fridge and ran to someone else's arms?" I looked up at Jonathan. "Is it really okay to bully someone, just because you have power?" Jonathan nodded, so I raised my hand and slapped Jordan Liu across the face. Once wasn't enough, I hit him again on the other cheek. Then I looked back at Jonathan. He instantly understood, and gave another nod. I picked up a wine bottle, and dumped it right over Patricia's head. Before the police arrived, I took the chance to settle all old scores. When the officers showed up, it wasn't Jonathan or me they took away. It was Jordan Liu and Patricia. Jonathan had handed over surveillance footage of their harassment. The whole lot of them was taken in for questioning, and I, in the end, was awarded the executive position. When Jonathan's assistant asked if he wanted to host a celebratory banquet, he declined. He canceled all his appointments and turned to me. "Let's go home." "Okay, let's go home." Chapter 19. Jonathan drove like a man possessed. When the car screeched to a stop in front of our little courtyard, he got out and rushed to me, pulling me into a kiss. His hands were trembling, his voice, too. I was so scared. He whispered, "Scared that if I'd been even a second later, they would have hurt you." I responded to him with unrestrained passion. "You look so handsome in that suit. What kind of fabric is that? It hugs you in all the right places, makes a person's mind wander." Jonathan paused mid-motion. He cupped my face in his hands, his gaze piercing deep into mine. "Helen, you're scared too, aren't you? It's okay to say so. With me, you can be soft, you can cry, you can sulk, throw tantrums. You don't have to always act like nothing gets to you." His sincerity shattered me in an instant. My tears spilled without warning. I buried my face in the curve of his neck and let it all out, every ounce of humiliation, fear, and grief. For the first time since losing my father and grandma, I sobbed like a child, voicing every heartache I'd held back. Jonathan carried me upstairs in his arms. He opened the door with one hand, and once inside, kissed my eyelids with infinite tenderness. When his desire finally took over, the scar at the corner of his eye deepened in color. It nestled perfectly in the crease of his double eyelid, red, alluring, unforgettable, as we moved together in a rhythm that blurred the world. Some long-buried memory came rushing back. Chapter 20. When I was little, I knew a boy. He lived next door to my grandma's house in the countryside. Every summer and winter break, I'd go looking for him. He would take me to the fields. We'd catch fish, splash in the water, and pick wild berries. On summer afternoons, while the elders napped, We'd sneak out to play. I had endless mischief. He had endless strange talents. Every time we teamed up successfully, we'd get a good spanking after. Those childhood summers, even the wind was sweet. But one summer, I got us into trouble. It was during another nap time. We sat huddled together, sharing half a watermelon and watching Journey to the West, when Sun Wukong's fiery golden eyes appeared on the screen. My mischief struck again. I asked, "Gidge, do you want to be the Monkey King? The kind with fire eyes?" He put down his melon and blinked. "Only if you'll be the fairy Zixia." I hadn't heard of any Zixia. She wasn't in Journey to the West, as far as I knew. "I'll be Zixia if you'll be Sun Wukong?" He nodded. So we went and found glow-in-the-dark nail polish and painted it over his eyelids. He said his eyes stung. I told him to bear with it. When night fell and the polish glowed, he'd have real fiery eyes. He did his best to endure, but his eyelids started sticking together. He said, "Let's wash it off." So I brought over water, boiling water, from the thermos. When I pried his eyes open, I started bawling. His eyeballs were bloodshot, his eyelids raw and bleeding. Grandma was startled awake by my wailing and rushed him to the hospital. Even there, that stubborn boy refused to let the doctor treat him. He said nightfall was close, he couldn't delay his training for fiery golden eyes. That boy was Jonathan. Back then, his grandma only called him by his nickname. Jonathan's eyes were bandaged. I was so frightened. I came down with a fever. Dad rushed over that night and took me back to the city. When I asked about Jonathan later, Dad casually said he was fine, told me not to worry. Eventually, Grandma moved to the city with us. I never dared go back to that village again. Chapter 21. Jonathan suddenly paused. He saw the tears streaking down my face and panicked. "Did I hurt you?" I reached up and gently touched the scar by his eye, choking back a sob. "My great sage equal to heaven, you finally rode your cloud of glory to come save me." Chapter 22. After completing his statement at the police station, Jordan Liu was finally forced to accept a brutal truth. Jonathan really was the long-lost heir of the Kim family. In that moment, every last shred of pride and composure collapsed. When he realized that Helen Lin would never again return to his home to nibble on that half-eaten box of chocolates in the fridge, the bitterness, the regret, the gnawing frustration tore through him like a tidal wave. The delusions, that he could teach Helen to be obedient, that he could break her pride, that he could make the high and mighty girl surrender to him. All of it suddenly seemed laughable in comparison to the reality of losing her. Patricia and the other spoiled heirs were still scrambling to protect one another as they gave half-baked statements to the police. But something inside Jordan Liu finally snapped. His face cold and grim, he barked harshly. Whose idea was it to bring Patricia to the memorial banquet? Silence. Patricia flinched under his venomous stare, instinctively taking 2 steps back, looking desperately around for someone to help her. But no one moved. Jordan grabbed one of them by the arm, forcing the question again. Whose idea? One guy finally lost patience. Why does it matter whose idea? Weren't you having the time of your life that day? What? Now it all blows up and you want to pin it on us? Exactly. If you couldn't handle the fallout, you shouldn't have played the game. Weren't you the one calling her a mangy dog? Weren't you the one talking about tossing her aside? Didn't expect it, did you? That so-called mangy dog turned out to be holding the Kim family's leash. Insults flew like daggers. And then, just like that, chaos erupted. Jordan Liu lashed out, one against many. Each man who'd once jeered at Helen now found themselves in Jordan's path. It was a reckless, desperate fight, the kind where nothing mattered, least of all consequences. It took armed officers to finally separate them. Jordan Liu left the precinct bruised and bloodied, and spent 7 long days in holding. There were no flashing lights, no flutes of champagne, no adoring entourages or carefully crafted rumors, just silence. For the first time, Jordan Liu was forced to face himself. He realized he loved Helen. He'd loved her since the moment she declared she was going to pursue him. It had made him flustered, unsettled, but he'd been raised on manipulation, on games of power and face-saving. He believed the one who fell first would always lose. So he kept his distance. When she went 3 days without approaching him, and he found out it was because of her period, and not him, he took it as confirmation. But he'd already begun to fall. Helen's mix of soft sweetness and fierce resolve intoxicated him. He thought, there's time. He thought eventually he'd come out on top. So when the Lin family went bankrupt, and Lin's father, who had once treated him like a son, passed away, his first instinct hadn't been grief, it had been relief. He'd thought, finally, she'll change. With no powerful father, no elite family name, Helen would become like Patricia. She'd offer herself up without being asked. And if Helen did it, it would be so much more beautiful than Patricia ever could. But in the end, who could have guessed that the random waiter Helen picked on a whim was the Kim family's heir? The thought made Jordan Liu double over. Clutching his chest, he pictured their hands intertwined, the kiss Jonathan pressed to Helen's forehead. Like a brand, his heart throbbed with a sharp, relentless ache. All those memories, her laughter, her stubborn glare, the soft hum of her voice, flooded his mind in a torrent. The most agonizing part? He knew Helen had once truly loved him, and he knew she didn't love him anymore. Jordan Liu thought it was unfair. If Jonathan were just a nobody, he would never have lost Helen. She didn't belong in that world. She wouldn't survive without luxury, without privilege. And so, a spark lit within him. A new plan began to take shape. He would join forces with the Kim family's illegitimate son. He would destroy Jonathan, strip him of everything, and when Helen had nothing left, she would come crawling back to him. Chapter 23. Jonathan began taking over the affairs of Kim Corporation. I began my career as a professional manager. Every morning, we left together in the same car. Every night, we returned to our cozy little two-story home. I never asked Jonathan what it took for him to bow to his father. I wanted my man to always wear that defiant, unbowed expression. But the world is full of tactless fools who insist on ruining peace. The next time we ran into Jordan Liu was downstairs at the company building. He blocked Jonathan's path, his tone light and mocking. Those mechanic hands, can they even grip a pen for signing contracts? Behind him stood Ryan, Jonathan's half-brother. Ryan gave a sunny, insincere smile. Oh, President Liu, you're too funny. You don't know how flexible my big brother is. Sure, he acts all tough normally, but when he knelt in front of my father and got cussed out like a dog, he didn't dare say a word. That day, Jonathan didn't hit anyone. I did. I slapped Ryan, hard. A pampered boy like him didn't even know how to fight back. After a few clean hits, his eyes were already red. Jonathan stood nearby, arms crossed, casually watching. What are you crying for? Swallow it. Your mom's gone, and your sister-in-law's as good as your new mother. You'll be getting a lot more discipline from now on, better get used to it. But I didn't have Jonathan's patience. I used every dirty trick I had. A sharp knee to the stomach folded him over. I grabbed his hair and began raining down slaps while cursing. Stop trying to suck up to every dog and swine. You think if you make your brother happy, he'll toss you a scrap? Can't even learn how to bow your damn head like a human? Then I'll teach you. Next time you open that foul mouth and upset your brother again, I'll beat you half to death. Ryan's smirk fell apart. He clutched his groin, face pale with terror. Jonathan, control your wife. Ah, it hurts. I'm gonna tell Dad. Someone help. Jonathan laughed, walked over, gave Ryan a swift kick, and pulled me into his arms. Don't be mad. I'm fine. He gently stroked my hair. It's all in the past. A son kneeling to his father, it's only natural. Does your hand hurt? It does. I murmured, curling into him. My hand ached, but my heart ached more. I knew how deeply a child could love their mother. His mother had died from his father's betrayal. He'd chosen to be a lowly mechanic rather than ever return home. That hatred ran deep. I sobbed, tears soaking into his shirt as Ryan stumbled off cursing and limping. The plaza was bustling. Employees were starting to gather after work. I buried myself in Jonathan's embrace. As if no one else existed, Jordan Liu stood quietly off to the side, watching me. His eyes reddened in an instant. All his earlier arrogance vanished, leaving only sorrow and despair. Helen, he said, his voice trembling, do you remember that school celebration when we graduated? I got into a fight, and you stood in front of me with a wine bottle in your hand. You were always so delicate, but that day, you stood there trembling, shielding me. His voice cracked. And for once, Jordan Liu laid his vulnerability bare before strangers. I was wrong, Helen. I was so wrong. But don't I deserve even one chance to make things right? If you really loved me, why won't you give me just one more chance? His shoulders drooped as he leaned against a streetlight. I waited for your call. The night your epiphyllum bloomed on the balcony, you said you'd call me when it opened. But I couldn't reach you. I called you all night. Helen. By the time the flower withered, you still hadn't answered. Helen Lynn, I'm begging you, just give me a chance to make it up to you. If you'd just turn around and look, you'd remember, you did love me once. You said you wanted to take me back to your grandma's hometown. I cleared my schedule. I planned the whole trip. Helen, if you'll just look back, I'll do anything you say. More people had gathered around now, whispering, isn't that the CEO of Lu Corp crying like a kid? Karma. He's the one who humiliated his fiancée at her father's funeral. Remember? Betting on how fast she'd beg. I lifted my head from Jonathan's arms. Jonathan raised an eyebrow. Want me to step away? I glared at him playfully and pinched his abs, hard. Talk a good game. If you really stepped away, I'd spend the whole night coaxing you back. Besides, it's just a mangy dog. Why would you back off for that? Jonathan laughed, holding his stomach. Jordan Liu's face turned ghostly pale. I turned to him. Throw away the chocolate and flowers. Who hasn't been a fool in their youth? I was blind back then. That's on me. But do us both a favor and stop showing up. Every time I see you, I'm reminded of how stupid I once was, and I might just start thinking about how to kill you. Then I slipped my arm through Jonathan's. And as for Grandma's hometown, I don't need to go anymore. The person I was looking for, I've already found him. Jordan Liu stared at me, eyes flickering with disbelief. I knew those words would haunt him. They'd eat away at him. And when he finally understood the truth and drank himself into a hospital stay with gastric bleeding, well, that's a story for another time. Chapter 24. That night, I held Jonathan's hand as we walked away together. He asked quietly, did you really think about looking for me? I teased him. Want the truth or a lie? Jonathan fell silent. But I looked for you. I blinked. When? Jonathan hesitated. I nudged. Come on. When? His throat moved twice before he finally spoke. His voice thick. The year you graduated from university, the celebration party. That night, the same party where I stood in front of Jordan Liu with a wine bottle in my hand. A wave of emotions surged inside me. And slowly, scattered pieces started falling into place. So, at my father's funeral, you didn't come just to drop something off? Jonathan didn't respond. He simply reached over and buckled my seatbelt. And the hospital stairwell, I continued. That wasn't a coincidence either, was it? Was it? Jonathan? Say something. Jonathan opened the glove compartment and pulled out a small box. With a soft click, he lifted the lid, revealing a beautiful diamond ring. He held it out to me. So, will you marry me? My eyes blurred with tears. I couldn't speak. Jonathan's voice was serious, tender. The road ahead won't be easy. I'm not just a mechanic anymore. I'm back in the ring, fighting for power and inheritance. I wiped at the tears streaming down and gave a teary laugh. Marry you? Of course. If I didn't like someone, I wouldn't marry them even if they were a mechanic. But if I do, even if he's a billionaire, I'd still marry him. Jonathan chuckled. What kind of logic is that? He leaned in and kissed me. Chapter 25. The second year of our marriage. Jonathan's father passed away. Perhaps out of guilt. Perhaps out of late-blooming recognition. In his final years, he remembered the love of his first wife. Before he died, he handed over the majority of his shares to Jonathan. Ryan, it seemed, had learned his lesson from the beating I gave him. Even in his most careless moments, he never again dared bring up Jonathan's scars. The following year, we had a child. As a gift, Jonathan gave me a spreadsheet. It detailed what had become of those who had jeered at my father's memorial. Over half had gone bankrupt. Jordan Liu hadn't, but was barely hanging on. Jonathan kissed me on the forehead. When your maternity leave ends, let's use your father's brand to acquire him. From outside the room, Ryan's theatrical gagging could be heard. Ugh, gross. If lovebirds die from PDA, you too should be buried already. Jonathan laughed and asked me, "You hit him again?" "No." I smirked. "He came to bring a gift for the baby when you weren't looking." He snuck in a few kisses. Jonathan pulled me into his arms, gazing thoughtfully out the window. Outside, the sun shone bright and warm, and inside, our scars were finally starting to heal.